They always say, if she pulls away, give her space. But what they never tell you is that silence isn't just space, it's a weapon. And when you master the art of no contact, you stop chasing and start controlling the game. Let's be honest. You've been there before. Things felt good, maybe even intense. And then out of nowhere, she pulls back. Maybe she goes cold. Maybe she ghosts. And you're left wondering, should I reach out? Should I fix this? But here's the truth that'll flip everything you thought you knew about relationships. When you go silent the right way, you don't just walk away. You trigger her deepest psychological fears: rejection, abandonment, regret. That's the real power of no contact. And today we're going to break down why it works, how it changes her mind, and how you can use it to shift the entire dynamic in your favor. Never underestimate what your silence can do to a woman who once thought she had full access to you. The moment you go quiet, the moment you stop reacting, messaging, explaining, defending, that's when she starts to feel something she's not used to: the loss of control. And what happens next can flip the whole dynamic in your favor if you understand how to use no contact the right way. Most guys mess this up. They do it half-heartedly or for the wrong reasons. But if you truly grasp the psychological power behind this move, it becomes something far more than just ignoring her. It becomes strategy. It becomes leverage. It becomes something she didn't see coming. See, here's the part no one tells you. Women are not just emotional beings. They are pattern sensitive. They don't just notice what you say, they notice how often you say it, when you say it, and how you behave when they pull back. And when you break that pattern by suddenly going radio silent, without warning, without drama, it creates a mental tension they can't shake. That's where the dark psychology comes in. Because when you remove your presence, what you're really doing is introducing uncertainty into her emotional world. And for someone who once felt like she had you figured out, that uncertainty is irresistibly intrusive. It nags at her. It plants doubt. It forces her to question what she thought she knew about you. The average guy tries to talk his way back into her life when things start going cold. He texts paragraphs. He double texts. He tries to explain how much he cares, how much he's willing to change, how he gets it now. But what he doesn't realize is, the more he talks, the less she listens. The more available he is, the less valuable he becomes. You want her to chase you? Then you need to be the one who breaks the pattern. You need to be the one who disappears, not out of weakness, but out of controlled power. Because no contact isn't about pouting. It's not about ghosting out of spite. It's not about trying to make her miss you by pretending. It's about creating a shift in power dynamics, one where you're no longer reacting to her, but she's now reacting to the absence of you. Now let me paint you a real picture. Imagine you were talking to a woman consistently, texting every day, maybe even hanging out regularly. She starts pulling back. She takes hours to reply. Maybe even starts saying things like, "I just need time to think," or "I'm not sure how I feel anymore." That's where most guys panic. That's where they start trying harder, not realizing they're digging their own grave. But you say nothing. You give her exactly what she thinks she wants: space. But the difference is, you're not doing it in a weak, "please miss me" kind of way. You're doing it with a mindset that says, "I don't chase confusion." And just like that, the roles reverse. Because the silent treatment hits different when it's coming from someone who used to care. And trust me, she notices. She feels it. She might act like she doesn't at first. She might post happy selfies, hang out with friends, even flirt around to prove she's unbothered. But deep inside, she's checking your story. She's noticing your absence. She's wondering why the one guy she thought would always be available is suddenly gone without a trace. And that mental silence, that starts eating away at her in a way no amount of talking ever could. No contact, when done right, taps into 3 core psychological triggers: loss, uncertainty, and ego confusion. First, she feels the loss of your attention, and attention, in today's world, is currency. Then comes the uncertainty, where she starts asking herself, did he really move on that fast? Was he even that into me? What if he found someone else? And then ego confusion hits. This is when her self-image takes a hit, because suddenly, she's not sure if she still has power over you. That alone can drive her crazy. Because when a woman realizes she no longer has emotional leverage over you, she doesn't feel empowered. She feels exposed. But let's be real. No contact isn't easy, especially when you still care, when you're still emotionally invested, when you want closure or validation. It feels like going against your instincts. That's why most guys break it after a few days. They see a post, get triggered, send a message, or just check in to see how she's doing, and instantly lose all the psychological progress they made. Because the moment she sees that message, everything resets. You go from mystery back to predictability, from power back to pursuit, and she knows she's still got you. Game over. But if you can hold firm, if you can sit with that silence, use it as strength, and stay emotionally disciplined, then something starts to shift. She starts to feel your absence not just as a silence, but as a void. And that void speaks louder than any apology, any explanation, or any emotional confession you could have given. It tells her without a single word that you have moved the power away from her and back to yourself. No contact, at its core, is not about hurting her. It's about healing yourself by reclaiming your value. It's about forcing the dynamic to shift. And sometimes the only way to get her to see you differently is to remove yourself completely from the frame. Because when you're not around to feed her ego, she's forced to sit with her own reflection. And what she sees in that silence is often far more disturbing than anything you could have said to her directly. Now here's where things get even more interesting. The longer you stay silent, the more the story builds in her mind. And here's the part that messes with her psychology. She has no idea what you're thinking. Are you done for good? Have you met someone else? Are you just busy? Is this revenge? Or are you finally over her? She doesn't know. And that's what tears at her. Because women are built to seek emotional resolution. If she started pulling away from you, in her mind, she expected you to chase. She expected closure. She expected resistance. But your silence, that was unexpected. That messes with the mental script she had already written. And in the absence of answers, her brain starts to fill in the gaps with all kinds of wild ideas, most of which work in your favor. Remember this, when you stay quiet, she has to make up the story, and the story she creates is always way more powerful than anything you could have said. If she thought you were desperate, she starts wondering if maybe she misjudged you. If she thought she had you wrapped around her finger, now she's not so sure. If she thought you'd never leave, now she's watching to see if you ever come back. This uncertainty is powerful, but only if you don't ruin it by speaking too soon. Because if you stay quiet long enough, she starts doubting herself. And that's where attraction gets reignited. Not because you begged for it, but because you forced her to rethink her entire image of you. Now let's talk about how most women react during no contact, even if they never say a word. First, they pretend they're fine. Some will post more than usual. They might show off, try to look like they're living their best life. Some will flirt more online or even act like they're moving on. Don't be fooled. That's not strength, that's defense. They're testing you to see if you'll break, to see if you'll react. It's bait. And if you bite, you lose. Because every time you give in, you confirm what they were hoping for, that you're still emotionally caught up, still predictable, still chasing. Then comes the indirect reach outs. Maybe she likes an old post. Maybe she watches all your stories again. Maybe she texts you something innocent, like asking if you still have her hoodie or some dumb question she could have Googled. All of these are tests. She's trying to see if she still has emotional access to you. If you respond right away, if you act like you've just been waiting to hear from her, then you've just undone everything no contact built. But if you ignore it, if you don't flinch, that's when her mind really starts spiraling. Because now, you've become the one she can't quite read. And nothing gets under a woman's skin more than a man who used to be open, but suddenly turned unreadable. She'll wonder if you're playing games, or if you've actually moved on. She'll start thinking about the last things you said, the last time you saw each other, the last look you gave her. That silence will rewind the tape in her head over and over, and each time she replays it, she loses a little bit more control over the situation. And this is where the dark psychology becomes so effective, because you're no longer in her inbox, in her comments, or on her phone screen. You're in her mind. And once you're in there, you don't need to say a word. She starts doing the work for you. She starts missing you on her own terms, without pressure, without persuasion. That's what makes the feelings more powerful. Because when someone convinces themselves that they miss you, that they want you, that they messed up, they believe it 10 times more than if you had tried to convince them yourself. But here's the catch. This only works if you're actually becoming better during the silence. If you're just sitting there, watching her stories, waiting for her to message you, you're not doing no contact. You're doing emotional limbo. The real power of no contact comes from the fact that you're not just disappearing from her life. You're leveling up in private. That's what makes the silence dangerous. Because when she finally checks back in, if she sees you've been silent and focused and improving, now she doesn't just feel your absence, she feels replaced. And nothing hits harder than realizing you're no longer the center of someone's attention when you used to be their whole world. This is also where women start to realize they underestimated you. Maybe she thought she could walk away and you'd fall apart. Maybe she assumed you'd be stuck while she explored her options. Maybe she thought she could downgrade your importance and still keep you as backup. But now, she's starting to see you didn't wait around. You didn't fight for a spot in her chaos. You vanished, and you've been silent ever since. And suddenly that security she felt, it's gone. The attention she was getting, gone. The emotional hold she had over you, slipping. And now, the panic begins. This is where she might start acting out. Maybe she texts something emotional. Maybe she tries to make you jealous. Maybe she even confronts you for disappearing, like it was your fault. Don't fall for it. All of that is emotional bait. It's her trying to force a reaction, because silence is killing her ego. And when her ego's bleeding, she wants a reaction to confirm she still matters. But your job is to stay stoic, stay centered. Let the silence speak for you. Because the moment you speak first, you give her the relief she was hoping for. You end the tension. You let her off the hook. And now she knows she still controls your emotions. And listen, even if you get the urge to respond, even if her message sounds sweet or sincere or emotional, remember why you went silent in the first place. You weren't trying to hurt her. You were protecting your energy. You were taking back your power. You were showing her, and yourself, that you don't beg for clarity. You let actions speak. And her actions said enough. So now your silence is the answer. At this point, something strange starts happening in her emotions. She starts reevaluating her own worth in your eyes. She thought she was the one deciding how things ended. But your silence flipped the script. Now she's the one wondering if she was enough. That's the part most people don't understand about no contact. It's not about making someone miss you. It's about reversing the emotional pressure. And when you stop chasing, she starts analyzing everything she did, everything she said, every time she took your effort for granted. That reflection hurts more than any text you could have sent. Because now, it's her brain working against her. And that's a war she can't win easily. Most guys don't realize how hard it is for a woman to truly lose a man who once loved her fully. At first, sure, she might act like it's nothing. She might have distractions, attention, options. But that doesn't replace the emotional weight of someone who genuinely cared. And the more emotionally intelligent she is, the more it bothers her when she realizes she mishandled that kind of man. You weren't just a fling. You weren't another DM. You were consistent. You cared. You gave her energy when you didn't have to. And when that stops cold, it echoes. Here's the thing about silence. It starts slow, but it builds pressure. At first, it's easy to ignore. But day by day, it becomes louder. One missed text becomes a week of wondering. 1 week becomes a month of overthinking. She starts checking your profile without liking anything. She starts rereading old messages. She starts remembering how you made her feel safe, or supported, or special. And if she's still not hearing from you, that pressure builds until it turns into anxiety. And that anxiety often turns into obsession. Not because you chased her, but because you didn't. Now let's go deeper. Why does no contact tap into such dark psychological triggers, especially for women?
because women are wired to sense emotional disconnection as a threat. Not hearing from a guy they expected to have wrapped around their finger creates a feeling of lost control. That lack of control becomes the trigger for all the emotional chaos that follows. And the crazy part, even if she's the one who left you, even if she said she wasn't ready, even if she claimed she needed space, when you give her exactly what she asked for, pure silence, she starts questioning everything. Because deep down, she never really believed you'd let her go. She thought you'd wait. She thought she could come back when it was convenient. But no contact shows her something more brutal. You're not a man who stays on the shelf. You're not waiting for her to figure out what she wants. You moved on, or at least you're acting like it. And that triggers her deepest fear, replacement. Every woman has this unspoken fear that the man who once adored her might find someone better, younger, prettier, more understanding, less drama. And when she doesn't hear from you, she starts imagining that it's already happened, even if it hasn't. And those thoughts don't just come and go, they linger, they spiral. This is when she might try to sabotage your peace. Maybe she posts things that seem aimed at you. Maybe she talks to people close to you.
Maybe she starts dating someone new just to get a reaction out of you. Again, don't react. Because if she has to use another man just to try and make you feel something, that's not power. That's desperation disguised as confidence. She's not replacing you. She's running from the silence. And if you break no contact here, just because you saw her with someone else, you give away your power for free. You prove you were still emotionally owned by her, even after everything. Instead, use this time to double down on your progress. Become harder to reach, not because you're avoiding her, but because you're actually focused. Hit the gym more. Build something new. Reconnect with purpose. Post less. Move smarter. The more she sees you disappearing into your growth, the more she starts to panic. Because women are emotional detectives. They notice the smallest shift in energy. And when that shift feels like you're no longer available, no longer thinking about her, no longer emotionally present, that's when she starts chasing. Not because you begged for her attention, but because she realizes she no longer has access to the version of you she used to take for granted. You're evolving in silence. You're building in peace. And that hits different. It creates something rare, emotional mystery. She doesn't know who you're becoming. She doesn't know how you feel. She doesn't know if she's still part of your future. And that unknown eats away at her certainty. Here's a secret about emotional power. The person who creates doubt always has the upper hand. When she doubts her place in your world, her imagination fills the gap. And trust me, nothing you could say to her ever matches the fear she creates in her own head. That fear drives her curiosity. That curiosity leads her back to you. But only if you don't ruin it by breaking the silence too soon. Because here's the harsh truth. Most guys mess up no contact by giving in right before it starts working.
They start thinking, maybe I should just check in. Maybe I'll just say hi. What if she's over me? That panic is what kills your progress. Don't let your emotions trick you into thinking silence is weakness. It's not. It's strategic restraint. It's emotional leverage. It's your way of reclaiming the energy you use to give away for free. And when you master it, you don't just regain power. You become someone she has to earn again. But the key is this. Don't just stay silent for her. Do it for yourself. Use it to detox your mind, to see the situation clearly, to remember your value. Because sometimes when we're emotionally close to someone, we forget how much we were overgiving. We forget how unbalanced things were. But in silence, all that becomes clear. You remember how much you tolerated. You remember how much you chased. You see it for what it was. And that clarity, that's priceless. Now here's where things start to flip completely. After enough silence, she either starts reaching out directly or through subtle signals, watching your stories, liking old posts, asking mutual friends about you. Don't be fooled. These aren't casual actions. These are silent feelers. She's trying to gauge if you'll bite, if you'll take the bait, if she can still control the frame. But here's your job. Hold the line. Because once you give her the impression that her small breadcrumb got your full attention again, you collapse all the tension your silence built. All the mystery dies the second you validate her attempt too early. If she really wants back in, she has to come correct, with effort, with vulnerability, with clarity. And if she doesn't, then she was never really interested in fixing anything. She just didn't like losing access to you. That's another brutal truth about no contact most men ignore. Not every woman comes back because she regrets what happened. Sometimes she just hates that she lost your emotional attention.
She doesn't miss you. She misses the way you made her feel. And if you're not careful, you'll jump back in just because she blinked in your direction, only to find yourself right back in the same loop. Same games, same imbalance, same emotional drain. No contact forces clarity. And sometimes that clarity isn't what you were hoping for. But that's the beauty of it. Whether she comes back or not, you win. If she returns genuinely, you get a shot at something real, but on your terms. And if she doesn't, you avoided wasting another month, year, or even decade chasing someone who never planned on choosing you properly. You saved your future self the pain of repeating the same pattern. And let's be real, the version of you who learns how to be silent, how to be patient, how to not flinch when a woman tries to test your resolve, that version of you is dangerous. Not in a toxic way, but in a focused, grounded way. You don't chase what doesn't show up for you. You don't beg for effort. You don't reward breadcrumbs. You don't need constant reassurance, because you've built your own value from within. And women feel that. They respect it. Even the ones who never gave you that same respect before. Once you pull away with purpose, they see you in a new light. You go from predictable to unpredictable, from safe to a mystery, from available to desired. That's the power shift, not because you tried to be someone else, but because you finally stopped trying to prove your worth. You let your absence speak, and trust me, silence says things words never could. It tells her you have self-control, that you're not desperate, that you can walk away, that if she wants your energy again, she better show up differently. That message cuts deep, but don't just do no contact as a tactic. Do it as a transformation. Let this be the moment you stop chasing validation. Let this be the season where you elevate your mind, your body, your focus.
Not to get her back, but to become someone who doesn't even have to ask for attention anymore. It just happens, naturally, quietly, powerfully, because the right woman will feel it. She'll sense that you're not like the rest, that you're not trying to impress her, that you don't need her approval, and that energy, that's what actually pulls women in. See, when you stop reacting emotionally, you become unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, you're powerful, because now she doesn't know if you're waiting or gone for good. She doesn't know if she still has access to your heart. And that's where the real tension comes from. That's what makes her rethink everything. She might smile in public, but at night she's checking that phone, wondering why you haven't reached out, wondering who you're with, wondering if someone else is getting all that love she used to get. And if she never reaches out, that's your answer. That's clarity. That's peace. Because no contact doesn't guarantee that she'll come back. It guarantees that you'll stop needing her to. And once you reach that point, you unlock something far more powerful than attraction, detachment. And from detachment, you gain your emotional freedom. You gain your control. You gain your self-worth back. And let me tell you, once you taste that emotional freedom, you never beg again. You never chase again. You never ask someone twice to see your value. You move with calm confidence. You become the man she remembers every time she meets someone new. Not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying at all. You focused on you. And that made you unforgettable. So if you're in the middle of no contact right now, or thinking about starting it, remember this. Every day you stay silent, every day you don't reach out, every day you don't react, you're building power quietly, strategically, unemotionally, and that kind of discipline, that kind of restraint, that's what separates you from 99% of men.
Because most guys crack, most guys fold, most guys send that just checking in text, but not you, not anymore. You've seen the truth. You know how this game works now, and you're done playing it like a beginner. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to get even. You're not trying to get her attention. You're building your value. You're protecting your peace. And if she wants to be a part of that, She'll have to come find you, with effort, with clarity, with honesty, because you're not giving access to the old version of you anymore. That man is gone. And what's replacing him? A man who doesn't chase, a man who doesn't explain, a man who doesn't beg. And that is exactly the kind of man she never truly forgets. Watch the next video.